What's up, everyone? This is Vinny Chens and Big Joe.
Yeah, baby.
Welcome to the episode 2 of the 7 Out podcast, where gambling extends beyond the casino. In this episode, we wrap up the Super Bowl action, get some listener emails about craps etiquette, and then talk a little bit more about our upcoming trip to Parx in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, and the recently released World Series of Poker schedule. Listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and follow us at 7 Out Pod on Twitter. Enjoy.
I feel very lucky right now.
We believe in you, Frank.
All right.
Whatever you do, don't roll a 7!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Why would you say that?
I didn't know!
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Joe, if I told you you had a 10% chance of winning $20,000 right now, would you be excited?
Very excited.
And if I told you you had a 50% chance of winning $20,000, I gave you a coin, I said, Joe, heads or tails, let's flip it, you get it right, $20,000 cash. Would you be excited?
Hell yeah, I'd be excited.
So if I tell you you had more than a 90% chance of getting $20,000 cash in your hand tonight, tell me you can't taste the money.
I could taste it right now, and it tastes fucking delicious.
So I found myself in this situation. You know, Sunday night, Super Bowl, we can go into details about how boring it was and how sad it was for all the people that had 8-8 and 6-5 and 7, even 7-7.
2-2.
2-2.
1-1.
Yeah. All of these people never had a chance to hit their Super Bowl boxes. And we talked about last episode how we weren't really betting the game. We were doing a little monkey knife fight. We were doing some prop bets, but really, personally, I was focusing on those big Super Bowl boxes. And I found myself in a situation Sunday night, sitting on the couch with my wife, watching the game. She's half asleep. She don't give a damn who wins. And the Patriots, fourth down, fourth quarter, 2 minutes left. They get a first down, game's over. But they didn't get the first down. They kicked the field goal, gave the Rams the ball back, gave the Rams a chance to go down the field, and bring out Greg the Leg Zuerlein for a 48-yard field goal.
Dude is money.
He's Legatron, okay? He has all these names. This guy is 90.6% accurate from under 50 yards. So they bring him out there, 48 yards left, and he whiffs it left.
7 out.
Okay? No one else cared but me, really. Everyone who had the 6-3 box cared. Everyone who had the 3-3 box definitely cared as well because they were in the money. They think it's over. I jumped off the couch so excited, woke up my wife, told her, honey, we have a chance at winning. And she's always a little curious. Well, how much we got to win? I'm like, you're getting a bag. We win this, honey. Honey, we're going to go out. We're going to dinner. We might go on a vacation. $20,000 there in my hands, 90.6%, and gone.
I said to my wife, I go, Law, if he hits this kick, Vin wins 20 grand. He misses it completely. And she goes, how much is he going to win? I was like, nothing.
He ain't going to win nothing.
Yeah, he ain't win nothing.
And I know I didn't lose 20 grand, but you kind of feel like you lost 20 grand, right?
Yeah, you can taste it. I mean, that's it.
90.6. It ain't getting better than that. Yeah, no. Maybe if it was a 15-yarder and he missed it, I'd have a little bit more to complain and bitch about. But still, he's 90.6% from hitting under 50.
Tough, man.
It was tough. And the worst part, let me tell you this. So if there was a timeout, right, if the game had even like a minute in between the time they downed the ball and the time they kicked it, I could have jumped on my sportsbook app, right? I could have went to live betting, and I could have probably hedged. I mean, and if you don't know what I mean, like, they have live betting now. You jump on your app, maybe you're using William Hill, maybe using DraftKings. They have these live bets where if there is a timeout, maybe it's between the third and fourth quarter, maybe it's just a coach's timeout or a review, there will be odds that pop up. And typically, if there was a timeout here, there'd be odds that popped up that said, do you think the Rams are going to hit this or not? Are they going to lose by more than 7 or are they going to lose by 7? And I would have hedged the hell out of that, man. I would have put $5,000 on it just to kind of wrap up that money because I didn't think I had a chance. And then suddenly it was all there right in front of me. And then it was all gone just as quick.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah, but I can't complain. I know I told you guys last episode I had the 0-0, so I did hit a little bit. I got more than my money back that I put in the boxes.
That's good.
But, I feel like I lost.
Well, I won $100 in my office pool.
Now that is exciting. You,
Yeah.
you do a pool for the office, in the office?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't really recoup what I laid out, but I'll take the $100.
You did it. So I'm guessing if you won $100 for the final, what was it, $2-3 pool?
It was a $2 pool, and I got halftime.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And we actually, in my office, struggle to even fill our $2 boxes. I try to run it every year just so people have a little fun, and it accomplishes what it's supposed to. People enjoy it. They come in the next morning. They're excited to get $50, $20. I did not win anything in the office pool. Actually, with 3-3 hitting the third quarter in the final, the same guy won. He was probably the most he won all year. So he was excited about it. But think of all the people we talked a little bit earlier, who didn't even have a chance at this. I mean, people are saying this may have been the most boring Super Bowl ever. I mean, it's the lowest scoring Super Bowl ever.
And, in terms of a defensive game, you're expecting some big defensive plays.
Like
big,
turnovers.
huge stand.
So Brady had that turnover in the beginning. It was dull. Like, if you're not betting the game,
Yeah.
because think about it, if you bet the game, the one thing is you were never, whether you had the Patriots or the Rams, you were always in danger of losing. The game was never a blowout. So if you were betting the game, you probably still had a little bit of excitement on this. But think about, the average person that watches 2 games a year. This is the only game they watched a year. They're at a Super Bowl party.
A lot of people like that.
Yeah, they hear Tom Brady, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Rams, McVay, maybe they heard his name. This new coach, high-powered offense. And this is what they tune into? I mean, this is disappointing for the NFL. And then,
I think I read, too, they had the lowest viewership in years
and
with this game.
which is surprising. With all like the DraftKings and the FanDuel and all that, I would think this would have been the most. You would think so much people betting on the games now.
Yeah.
I thought there'd be more, but maybe people are just fed up and tired of seeing Brady go to the Super Bowl.
I mean, that seems to be the popular opinion right now.
Yeah. So other than the boxes, I mean, I don't know if you did any. You did some monkey knife fight. I guess that didn't pan out so well either.
No, I came close. I did an over-under, and I got 4 out of 5. Thing that I missed was Brady over 280 or something like that it was.
The rest of them you had mostly unders, or did anyone have?
No,
an
I
over
had
that you hit?
Edelman for the over. It was 7 catches, and he ended
was
up with
MVP,
10.
right? So
Sony Michel, I think the over was like 70-somewhat yards. I think he ended up with 94.
okay.
And I took the unders on Goff and Gurley. Goff was like 280, under 280 or something. I think he finished with like 232.
And you have Brady, you have Edelman hitting the over. You kind of think Edelman hits the over.
Yeah,
Brady's probably going to hit the
I really
over,
thought
right?
I had a shot, but didn't get there.
Besides
Would've been a nice
Gronk, a
little
couple
score.
catches. There was really no one else on the Patriots offense that caught the ball. I know a couple passes to James White went in the screen. They didn't work out. So,
But seeing 280 as the over, to me, seemed like a slam dunk
in that
for
game.
what we expected.
It was supposed to be 56 points. And obviously now, a couple days later, hindsight, the lowest scoring game in Super Bowl history. Obviously, we weren't going to hit those numbers.
Right.
So, besides that, again, we didn't bet the game, but I did have a couple prop bets. And I'm embarrassed to tell you and tell the audience that the biggest prop bet that I bet and whiffed on was the color of the Gatorade.
I can't believe you bet on that.
I don't typically do this. I got roped in. I listened to a couple different podcasts that focus on sports betting, which they failed me, so I'm not going to mention their names right now. I also pay for a couple of different sites that give you some bets and locks of the week, locks of the year, that kind of thing. More than one of these sites told me that the Gatorade color was going to be ice, that the Rams and the Patriots all year only drank Gatorade ice. Now, I never even seen Gatorade ice. At first I thought ice. Blue, maybe? No, not blue. Ice is clear. It's a clear flavor called ice. And not only did you get the ice, you got water as well. So it was clear Gatorade and water. It was plus 250. Okay. It was the second or third choice, and I was like, wow, that's great. A lock of the year from all these sites. More than one site telling me they have an inside look at this.
You actually texted our group chat
I did.
to tell us that
And
that's the bet to make.
I'm embarrassed. Yeah. And it's funny, too, because they didn't even show it live, the Gatorade. So I'm sitting there like, oh, my God, they didn't even put they didn't toss the Gatorade on Belichick. The game's over. Usually they show the coach getting doused right away. They didn't show it. Luckily, they showed a replay later on as I watched my money get burnt away.
So what was it?
It was blue. It was blue.
7-0!
It wasn't blue ice. It was blue.
Man.
And yeah, I'm not going to even say how much I bet on it. I lost a lot. And I don't typically bet these props. But again,
Speaking of props, you had mentioned to me that there was a few really strange.
well, there was a
things
lot of
going on with
controversy
prop bets
this
this
week,
year, yeah.
right? So, I mean, a lot of people love betting the coin toss, which, I mean, I don't think there's a more degenerate bet you can make all year than the coin toss. I mean, what does that mean? Why?
Yeah,
what makes you choose heads over tails or tails over
I
heads?
can't imagine sitting there sweating that out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of kickstart the Super Bowl. Maybe you put a couple bucks on it, make things go. You feel like you're a winner, loser, etc. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of bets that I can't stress enough. Do not make these bets I'm about to talk about right now.
Okay.
There's always going to be a lot of over-under yards. Maybe you're going to see a lot of how many times will they show so-and-so's wife in the audience on camera and all this kind of weird stuff.
I hate that.
I guess it gives you other things to bet on. And I'll say this. If you're at a Super Bowl party, it's kind of fun. You print out all these prop bets. You and your friends, you decide. Everyone gets a sheet of paper. You kind of pick, yes or no to this, over, under. And maybe you have a little prize pool
That's
going.
actually sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a good way to kind of, for the people who don't really follow football, this is stuff they might enjoy. Like how many Budweiser commercials they're going to be, over, under 3.
Right.
You have these out there. You put $20 in the pot, and then maybe winner takes all. But some of the biggest bets getting the controversy this week have to do with the national anthem. So the over-under in the national anthem was, depending on the sports book, it was 148, 149, around there. And typically every year the over gets overbet. I mean, typically people have their own spin on the anthem and basically make it go longer than the books. And so this year they had Gladys Knight. Now, I don't know much about Gladys Knight. Obviously, she's an icon, I guess, and she's been singing for years. But she came out there, she sang her rendition of the song, and around when the song was almost done, you thought there was no chance. This thing was going under, it seemed, okay? She says the word brave. It's like 1:35, 1:40 seconds. You think it's over. But then she decides to say brave a second time. If you heard this, she said brave real quick, 2-3 seconds, says brave again, holds it for like 8-9 seconds. It goes almost to 2 minutes now. So people think they win. They got the over.
Yeah,
it went
for
to
sure.
2 minutes. A lot of sportsbooks are out there saying, no, the song's over once they say brave once. Once she said brave the first time, it's over.
I mean, where does who decides how that works?
Well,
and
that's the problem.
where does it say that?
Unfortunately, you're at the mercy of the bookie, right? So
I don't like that.
You can't make these subjective bets. This isn't even the worst of it. I mean, this one is usually you think, oh, it's pretty black and white. When the song ends, the song ends. But now someone goes and says brave twice, and you think you're a winner and you're a loser. The bookie can do whatever he wants. And what are you going to do? You're going to fight with them?
I kind of feel like if you're betting on that, you deserve to lose. I mean, that's I don't know. Like you're going to cry about it. What are you doing betting on that?
I feel like people make that bet. I mean, besides the coin toss, that's probably the the biggest prop bet. That has nothing to do with the game and stats and all that.
Sure.
Right? So it kind of tied in with that too. There was a bet, will the singer, will Gladys Knight hold brave for more than 5 seconds? Well, she didn't with the first brave.
But she
and
did with the second.
with the second brave. A couple other subjective bets I saw. And these are things, as I'm looking down the list in the beginning of the day, I'm like, wow, how could you bet that? One of them, what's the most prominent color of Gladys Knight's dress or pantsuit? Now,
That was a bet?
That was a bet. What's a prominent color? So, prominent color? What if she's wearing a striped dress?
I hate everything about this.
Like, what if you're looking at there and then she's wearing a rainbow shirt? What are you supposed to do with that? You think when you're losing. You're losing these bets, One of the other things I thought was ridiculous was how many correct calls will Tony Romo make on air?
So
Now,
what qualifies as a correct call?
yeah. Now, the Romo, I love Romo.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
He's killing it.
I loved him on the Cowboys. Cowboy fan. Love him as an announcer. Hope to God one day he comes back and coaches these Cowboys, which is a pipe dream. But I'm hoping so. But yeah, he's got this kind of thing going now. This Romo Stradamus or Romo Damus. He's got all these names where he's predicting.
It's really
calls.
impressive to watch.
He's a great quarterback, and he can read the defense, and he's been in a lot of these situations, right? But yeah, what's right or wrong? If he says they're going to run the ball here, but it's a sneak, or what if they say they're going to pass the ball to Gronk, but they pass it and Gronk misses? Like, what qualifies as a right call and a wrong call?
It's the same thing. It's
subjective.
Too subjective.
Too subjective. And it's going to always go in the bookies. Unless it's like obvious, it's going to always go wherever the bookie needs it to go. So you can't bet that.
Yeah.
The other big one I saw, I don't know if the name Ted Rath rings a bell to you. So
should it?
So on the news a lot this past. If you've ever watched a Rams game, and this is how pompous Sean McVay. Sean McVay is the coach of the Rams. Okay, Sean McVay is 33. He's a young
dude.
coach.
Yeah.
Okay? He's younger than us. All the talk all season is about how he instilled this offense, and anyone now is connected with McVay is getting all these crazy contracts on other teams. He has a coach named Ted Rath, whose job it is during the game to pull Sean McVay back.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get in the way of the rest.
NFL did a special about that guy.
How much of a jerk off do you have to be that you're going to employ a grown man, to just make sure you don't go on the field too much?
He's
Get
his
some
sideline
control.
coach. Yeah. It's insane.
So there was bets on it. How many times will they show, or how many times will Ted Rath pull Sean McVay back? Now, like, what if he goes to pull him back and McVay moves on his own? What if it's not on the video?
What if it's just a hug?
Yeah, What if he just hugs him? What does that count? How do you at the end of this game, you're looking there like you don't know if you win or lose this. And the funny part is with the Ted Rath thing, because I was looking for it, I didn't see him all game, and I'm like, what's going on here? They show him every game.
I actually thought I read a report that he wasn't going to be at the game
He
for
wasn't.
a medical procedure.
He wasn't at the game.
Which I think is ridiculous that they're putting out reports about a sideline coach.
It's horrible. It really is horrible. So, yeah. So if you bet that, I don't know, did you win? Did you lose? I guess it's
I'll
no
tell
action.
you what happens if you bet that.
Yeah.
You lose.
You're a loser and you lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, don't make these kinds of bets. Have fun. Have fun with the Super Bowl. Bet some prop bets with your friends. Don't start putting $500,000 on these prop bets where you're probably going to lose no matter what the outcome is. They're going to find a way to make you lose. All right. So before we move on, just one more thing. I looked at the box, right? So I had the 6-3 as we talked about, and I look at the guy who won with 3-3, and I couldn't believe it. The initials in there were NYPD, New York Police Department. You may remember that the guy who beat me the first time 3 years ago for that huge prize pool, also from the police department. So, yeah, I'm running pretty bad with the cops, Joe. And I think I'm just cursed with these Super Bowls. I'll be back next year. But that reminds me, I actually had a run-in with the law this past week.
Was it because they think you're a terrorist?
Well, not that that I look like a terrorist. All right, I may have a black beard, I may dress like a bum, but I don't think that's why I got pulled over. But let me set the stage here. It was Saturday night. I was going to see Joe. Actually, when I'm not gambling on the weekends, I try to put all my attention into my wife. I'm not there all the time.
You're a good guy.
I want to be a good husband. I'm going to do my best, right?
Good for you, man.
So Friday night, took her out to dinner, a little movie. Saturday, I get up early, make up breakfast. We do food shopping, go to a little Trader Joe's, real exciting stuff.
Get that riced cauliflower.
It's exactly what we got. A little Bed Bath & Beyond. And then we went to some sushi. But then she's going to go to bed pretty early. It's Saturday night. She's got work Sunday morning. It's time for some boys' night out now. So what am I going to do? What does every 36-year-old man do? I'm going to play board games.
Goddamn right.
I'm going to meet Joe. I'm going to meet our friend Dan at his house Saturday night. We're a bunch of middle-aged men. We're going to play some Settlers of Catan.
Settlers of motherfucking Catan.
We're going to get high in someone's basement and play Settlers of Catan. But anyway, so Dan doesn't live very far, and Dan will be on the podcast in the future. He goes to a lot of the casinos with us. Like we call him Danny Osh. He loves Ocean, Atlantic City, but it's around 10:30 maybe on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's probably about 10:30.
And you guys weren't there yet, but I was going to stop. I wanted to stop at like Quick Check, and if you don't know what Quick Check is, maybe you have 7-Elevens by you, you have Wawa. These are these 24-hour stores that have coffee, cigarettes, beer, whatever the hell. So I'm sitting there. My wife's going to bed. I start smoking a little bit of my pen, getting high for the game. Okay.
You're talking about doing drugs?
Some drugs. There was some drugs done. Just some gateway drugs. Just gateway drugs.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about what kind of chips am I gonna get? I'm getting real excited about this. So I get in my car, and it's maybe a mile, not even a mile, to Dan's house. So I go out. I go through a parking lot, little shortcut that I know. I pull into Quick Check. I'm sitting in my car for about 10 seconds, thinking about what kind of treats I want. And all of a sudden, I see the lights behind me. I'm like, shit. Now I'm not smelling like weed, but I was smoking a little bit.
You're a real drug addict.
Apparently, that's what it sounds like to the audience.
It's whole story. That's what
that's what we should take away from this. But the cops are behind me. I see them with the flashlights in there, and I roll down my window, and I'm polite. I'm asking.
Do you immediately think at this point I'm going to jail?
No, I was surprisingly okay. Normally I wouldn't be, because it's not like I was like ripped. I was just kind of.
Did you put your hands outside the window and your keys on the dashboard?
That's the right thing to do. Okay. Now. We don't have to talk about
Just
that.
so you guys know, that's what Vin does when he gets pulled over.
Because that's the right thing to do. If
he got pulled over on his way to
there,
Atlantic City with
Yes.
a bunch of us in the back seat. Mm-hmm. He put his hands out the window.
I stopped the car and I turned the ignition
and put his keys on the dash.
Yes.
Like a real weirdo.
I think so. Our cop friends told me this is okay. And I think if you get pulled over, this day and age, cops don't know what they're walking up on. Okay, maybe they're walking up on a car full of guys with guns.
Listen,
they don't know.
I agree.
So you put your hands out the window.
It just was a very strange action that we all kind of were shocked at.
Yeah, and usually I get a lot of shit for that. But
sorry,
I do it every
go
time.
ahead,
but I did not do it this time because I was already parked. Okay,
Yeah,
I was already parked. I was just sitting in there thinking about what kind of trips I want. And the cops pull up, so I roll down the window. Hello, officer. He goes, do you know you went through a parking lot to avoid a red light? I'm like, it's just a shortcut I always take to go to my friend Dan's house. He lives right over here. I'm just stopping a Quick Check to get something. And he goes, license, registration. So I go to get my license. He says, is there anything in the car I should know about? I'm like, no, not at all.
Drugs.
There's nothing in the car. He flashes over. He sees I have some Red Bulls in the car. And I'm like, he said, what are those? I'm like, no, they're Red Bulls. I show him. And as I'm doing that, I see the other guys trying to look in the back seat. So I'm like, do you want me to roll down the windows? I have nothing to hide, My weed pen was actually in the Settlers of Catan box. Now, I don't think any cop is going to start looking through a man's Settlers of Catan box. So I hand him my license, going to get my registration. The guy gives me my license back and says, just so you know, sir, there's a drug dealer we've been looking for the past week in your neighborhood driving your exact car. So you're probably going to be pulled over a couple times. So I was like, oh, thanks. Real nice. Real nice.
A nice ending.
Yeah. So now this week, I've been paranoid.
Yeah,
Everywhere I go.
Sucks.
Yeah. So now next time I get pulled over, I should just say, yeah, it's not me. I'm not the drug dealer. I'm just a bum.
I
who's
don't
high.
have a weed pen in my Settlers of Catan box.
But it was a real shitty start to the night. But afterwards, it ended up being okay. So anyway, I'm running pretty bad with the cops. They're taking my money in these pools. They're pulling me over because I look like I do. The moral of the story, yeah, I guess I'm a drug addict. So
Yeah.
So moving on.
Oh, man.
So our second episode here, Joe, and I'm happy to say that we're up on Spotify, we're up on Stitcher, we're up on Google Play. I don't know what half of these things were up until this week, and today we finally got up on iTunes. So I'm excited that when I search 7 Out now, it comes up.
It's awesome.
I feel like we made it. We're here. We did it.
We made it, Billy.
We did it. I hope someone's listening to this. We got a little Twitter page, 7outpod@gmail.com. We actually, we got a couple of emails.
Awesome.
Some of them were gibberish. I'm not going to lie. But we did get 2 actual questions that I think are worth addressing in a segment I like to call...
It's time for Mail Call!
So the first email comes through from Jeff. Now, I wrote last week, I was asking people, how they bet on the playoffs or tell me about a different kind of way you bet the Super Bowl. And we talked about the boxes, but he said he did something called a minute change box, which I didn't hear about, and now
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I mean, so he kind of elaborated a little bit that they do $600 a box. Okay. $600 a box. There's 100 boxes. So the total prize pool is $60,000. Okay.
All right.
Now, if you don't know, there's 60 minutes in a football game, right? So your numbers are pulled the same way they're pulled in every other box. But let's just say you have 0-0, which is a great way to start this box. For every minute that passes, that your numbers are live, that your numbers are the ones that are represented by the score, you get $1,000.
So you're saying if it's 0-0 and 5 minutes in, it's still 0-0.
Yeah, you get $5,000. So you're rooting. I mean, first you're rooting for your numbers to get to your numbers, and it doesn't matter what quarter it is or whatever. Once your numbers hit, boom, the clock starts.
Okay.
And as soon as it goes over that minute point or that 2-minute point or that 3-minute point, you get $1,000 per time. So in this particular game, where there wasn't a lot of score changing, 0-0 got like 18 grand.
Yeah,
like
he
killed it. And then 3-3 probably, got a decent amount because actually
it was what was it
3-0
for a while.
Yeah, so then they got it for a ton. That's a fun box, and I don't know where we're going to find one. I hope that Jeff invites us to his next year, maybe, if we're still on the air.
For real.
But
What's up, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly. And if not, maybe we can try to start one amongst our friends. But so the score change box, something different.
That's really interesting. I like that.
The time box, I don't know what you call it. Another my friend at work actually said he's in a suicide box, which to me sounded a little stupid. It was just winner take all. Now that seems boring, right?
Yeah, that's not fun.
What are you rooting for here? I mean, if you got a number that's nowhere near it,
I hate that.
You're
actually.
out.
Yeah,
what the hell's the point of that? But we had another email as well from Mike, and Mike, the title of the last podcast, right, had craps etiquette in it, and I know we talked a little bit about how I'm big on craps etiquette, and the lady tried tipping me and all that stuff. He was asking more about craps etiquette. Doesn't play a lot of craps. Wanted to know things he should do and not do.
That's actually a great question. I mean, I definitely remember feeling intimidated.
It's an intimidating
when I was
game.
younger, going
it's
to
an intimidating game. Yeah, if
not
I didn't
knowing what to do, when to do it. I mean, that's really good.
And a lot of our friends even, we talked a little bit at the bachelor party. Like I remember they didn't know what the hell to do. They felt comfortable because we were there,
right.
But they'd probably never walk up to a craps table.
No way.
If it's their first time
I
walking in a casino.
I still find myself occasionally when I'm by myself feeling intimidated.
Well, especially when you know what it is. It's fast. Game's fast. Everyone knows that. It's a very fast game. Chips getting thrown around. The dealers are the best dealers in the casino. They have to know math. They have to be quick. So yeah, it's intimidating. You're seeing people throw chips out, saying things like "whirl," "yo," and this has probably been addressed on other podcasts. But I think it's important to just stop and just kind of make sure that people are not intimidated by the game and tell them what not to do. They'll learn what to do. How to bet. What makes them comfortable. And that's maybe another podcast where we go into different strategies and stuff. But what not to do is probably the most important. Do not throw your money on the table in the middle of the game. right? So if the dice...
let me ask you something. When you're saying in the middle of the game, you're talking about while a point is active, or are you talking about...
So if the point, and the point has, the disc, okay, you see that disc, the on-off button, that'll be on the side, and it'll be turned over on off if the game is currently reset, right? So if you see everyone put some money on the pass line, and there's no odds before that, and there's no point established, that there'll be no number that's marked off.
Right, but I mean, in terms of, let's say whoever's shooting hit their point.
Yeah, that's a reset.
Now it's off. It's okay now at this point.
You can jump
reset.
in now. I usually, now you don't have to do this. I just like to do it. I usually wait till there is
I feel like I wait until there's a 7 out also.
But, I don't think it's bad if you wait until the points hit, all that. You can put some bets in the middle. You can do your world bets. You can do your one roll bets. And before a point's established, that's okay. Throw the money in there. We're starting a new game technically. It's still the same roller.
Makes sense.
But it's a new game. So wait till that happens, and you'll know. I mean,
is that
again,
what you would say is like one of the most critical things that you should follow?
I give a look every time I make a comment like, oh, I remember my first time. I say stupid things like that every time, and I'm going to just gun this guy down if he's doing that, just because I want him to say what's wrong, and I'll be like, oh, this you shouldn't do that. I want him to almost say something to me.
At him, tell him to get the fuck
no,
out of here.
I won't do that again. but I want him to almost, I'm not going to just yell it out at him, but I'm gonna be passive aggressive like a real jerk. So yeah, don't throw your money down in the middle. 2, when you're going to roll the dice, don't take the dice off the table. A lot of people, you see this the first time, they pick the dice up, they kind of put them in their hand, and they take them off the table almost.
I mean, at that point, the dealers they're
going to yell at them. Yeah,
also,
so this
right?
isn't even like an etiquette thing. This is just as adult.
This is just a, hey,
yeah,
don't
do that. The etiquette part comes into play. Don't be that guy or girl who takes 45 seconds to set the damn dice. No one cares.
I feel like I see a lot of older guys setting dice and taking a long time.
I don't know what kind of person I see. You can just kind of tell who they're going to be.
Now, I grab those dice and I toss them.
You toss them quick. Now,
but I don't think I'm the norm either.
No, I mean,
There's
some guys
in
whip
between,
them.
Right?
Like some people take the dice, they whip them, they knock over things. I don't like that either, but I prefer that to the guy who's going to sit there. And I set the dice. I set the dice to a hard 10 every time. I like the snake eyes looking back at me.
Always done that?
It doesn't matter that I do that, right? I mean, but I do that, and I just think it's a routine that I do. Maybe I'll change it one day, but forever I've always thought.
But how long are you taking when you're setting them? I mean, what are we looking at?
5-6 seconds.
Right.
You set the dice.
Any kind of exaggerated.
People take 30 seconds, Joe.
Yeah, and that's a long time.
People, the guy who picks up the dice, rolls them, picks them up again, rolls them, sets them, rolls them before actually shooting them on the table. It's horrible. The guy who's talking to himself the whole time. It's like it's his game and everyone's watching. Like, it's just being selfish. It's slowing down the game. The casino don't like it because they want the game to go, right?
Sure.
The players don't like it. So, yeah, don't be that guy. Don't knock over the chips either. Just throw the dice. You want to run a routine? That's fine. Set the dice. Throw the dice.
Okay.
Don't be that person who puts a bet in at the last second. You hear people yell hands sometime, okay? And this happens. There'll always be that guy who's betting the damn field. I can do a whole freaking episode on how much I hate Field Bettors, okay?
You hate Field Bettors, especially those guys who are kind of standing over your shoulder, like waiting to throw it down.
Yeah, that's another thing we'll talk about in 1 second. But yeah, the Field Better. Look, it's probably, if you're intimidated by the game, you step up to the table. You see all those numbers on the field. A 2 and a 12 play double. And I can bet a 3, and it's pretty much everything but the 6, 8, and 9, I think, or 6, 8, and 5. Yeah, I get why people are betting it because it's easy to double my money, or maybe I get 2 times my money there. I'm going to bet the field, but they wait to the last second. The dice are literally going out of my hand, and they put their hand across the table and put a field bet down. Don't be that guy who throws in your bets late. I mean, don't be the guy who throws out a bet and says, like, hard 10 as the dice are in the air. The dealer's probably going to most of the time say bet or no bet. What if a hard 10 comes out and he says no bet? Now you're going to stop the game. You're going to argue. Just don't do that, okay?
I feel like I've definitely rolled the dice and hit someone else's hand before while they're trying to put a bet down.
It happens. Well, because sometimes people forget to put odds down.
I know there's no actual thing to this, but how often does it hit someone's hand and you see it 7 out?
You just remember. You just remember every time it is. It's like...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just like the same thing, too. Like when there's a dealer change, people take their bets off and stuff. I never do that, okay? I mean, if you start doing that, you're going down a rabbit hole where you're probably going to do it every time something weird happens.
Right.
Dice off the table. Oh, bets off. And then all of a sudden a 7 comes out and he thinks he's the smartest freaking man in the world.
But I guess I never really thought of that. You're remembering it because if there was something that happened first.
Exactly. You're not remembering every time that the dice went off the table and then a 6 or an 8 was rolled. But yeah, so don't do these types of things. Besides that, just have fun. You can ask questions. Ask questions to the dealer. That's why
Dealers
they're
are
there.
super helpful.
Cool.
They're looking to help you as much as they can.
If it's a friendly casino, they're going to be very helpful. They're going to make sure you bet the right amount. They're going to make sure that you're getting paid. Don't worry about getting.
How about
they're paying you the
tipping
right
these
amount.
guys? Like, what would you?
Well, yeah, there you go. Great question. So everyone tips differently. You're at a blackjack game. Sometimes you'll tip for them. Sometimes you just tip when you win a hand. Roulette too. Your numbers hit. You give the guy, the dealer, a couple of chips.
Bucks. Right.
Craps, I feel like there's no other game where they get more involved. Like the dealers are almost playing with you a lot, right? So one of the things I love to do is I bet all the numbers for the dealers. So there's 6 numbers, right? You have 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10.
Yep.
Okay, those are the 6 good numbers on the place bet numbers. So I'll sometimes just throw out, $6, $12, $24 increments of 6, and just say for the dealers, now they put their chips on those numbers, and when those numbers are rolled, they win the bet. So now they're hoping for those numbers. That's a great way, I think, to tip the dealers. Another great way is you can do a pass line bet for the dealers. Like if you're putting a quarter on the line, sometimes you can put a $5 on the line next to it for the dealers. And they won't mind if you're not at a $5 table. They'll let you put $5 on the line next to it as like a dealer playing.
Plus, I definitely have done hard ways in the past for dealers.
Hard ways.
And that's fun, and they're getting excited with it too,
Yeah, man. And the hard ways for the dealers is great. And you can parlay the hard ways if you want for the dealers. Now that they have those all small, tall bets, those are cheap. You can put $1 on them sometimes. $1 could pay off $150. And now these dealers are going to be really involved in the game.
That's awesome.
No one works harder, in my opinion, in the casino than those damn dealers. No one takes as much crap as those dealers.
Sure.
So, I think that's a great way to tip. So yeah, if you have any other questions about what to do, what not to do at the table, please do let us know. But just remember, we're all there to have a good time, have fun, be respectful of the other players. Remember, you're not the only one at the damn table. And don't try to. This is another thing. When there's 6 people on the side of a table, it depends on how big the table is. Sometimes only fits 4, sometimes fits 5. By us in Atlantic City, usually you can fit 6 people on one side of the table. Don't try squeezing in between players to put bets down.
It's the worst.
Yeah. One of the worst things that can happen is literally you try to squeeze in and put a bet down, and then they say no bet, and then your numbers hit or something like that. Because you're going to put it down there and think it's good, and all of a sudden the dealer's going to say no bet, the dice are rolled, you're going to think you win, you lose. When there's 6 people on the table, a dealer's usually going to kick you out of there, but people are still always over his shoulder trying to put bets in and stuff like that.
Right.
Don't be that person. So I'm glad that we talked upon this because it's time for another one of my favorite
Tales from the Craps Table.
So it's 2014, I'm going to say. And I remember it was cold out because a lot of people had jackets and stuff like that. I don't remember the exact month, but it was a casual gambling trip. Wasn't there with my family, my wife, or I guess at the time would have been my fiance. But I went down with our friend Danny Oach. He was new to the game of craps, I remember, and he had a lot of questions. But we loved it. We were on a little roll. I remember we won 2-3 sessions in a row. It was exciting. And I remember it was a crowded table. Okay, it was right in the main pit, right by that main bar at Borgata, if you've been there before. And I was in my favorite spot, typically right next to the stick. I like to be to the left of the stick. I like being next to the stick because, I do a lot of hard way bets, and I don't like yelling from across to the table and saying, no, stick, hard 10 or 25 on this or whatever it may be. I like being right there. I like to talk to the stick a little bit, joke around. Do you have a preference, Joe, where you actually sit?
I actually like being all the way at the end, kind of almost like to the side behind the table.
So like right next to the middle of the main dealers?
Yeah. If I'm throwing the dice, I like throwing them across the whole entire table.
Having a lot of room, a lot of space.
But at the same time, I like being next to that dealer because I feel very comfortable, giving him my chips.
Yeah, which is big. I get that.
I can ask him a question if I'm not sure about what something means or how much I need to bet.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just,
for
whatever reason, that's where I got really comfortable.
That's good. If you're out there and you're new to the game, maybe that is a good place to sit, or stand, I should say. Because, yeah, you can ask the dealers. You don't want to feel too stupid, say anything too loud. You want to just kind of talk to the dealer.
Listen,
that's great.
Whatever I'm asking him to
place
do.
to 6, place to 8.
He can reach. He can tell him to do it for me. I don't got to yell. It's just, comfort.
I don't know why. I just hate throwing chips across the table to the stick because you don't typically give the chips that you're doing for those middle bets to those dealers. You give them to the stick. People throw them in all the time. And
yeah. I think that I'm kind of the opposite, saying, hey, could you give me a hard 6, please?
Yeah, and he helps you out. So I like being next to the stick. You like being next to the dealer. That's good. We usually have 5-6 spots there. But I was next to my stick on this particular time, and it was a decent roll going on. But you can tell the table was heating up, and there's always those lurkers, right? I mean, some people don't even play. They just kind of like watching the game. And I hate
them.
I I know, but I don't know why, but I take such offense to these people too. They're just trying to learn the game, right? And there's nothing wrong. They're watching. But
honestly,
I hate people
though,
behind
these
me.
aren't people trying to learn the game.
So-
These are guys standing there real creepy, the hands in their pockets.
Yeah.
Like who you're worrying about taking your money off
It's
the
true.
table.
It's true. What if you have a whole rack filled?
That's who you're talking
You know,
about.
because there are people like I wonder if I think back how many times did I get robbed and I don't even know it at the craps table. Maybe the guy I'm talking to next to me, making buddy with, is actually taking $25 chips
You
out of my
have
rack.
to be always worrying about Creed Brattons.
Creed from The Office. I'm
Yes.
assuming you're referencing. Now, I remember that he was a cheat and poker.
He didn't gamble
I
at
remember.
all in that episode of The Office.
Oh, but he had all the
and won all the
chips.
chips because all he did was go from table to table taking people's
Just
chips.
pocketing chips. I remember that. He won something at the end. I remember. He won.
He won a fridge.
he
To
won
which
a-
he said,
from
"Thanks,
Vance
I never
Refrigeration.
had a fridge." Yeah.
Vance Refrigeration.
Yeah.
Bob Vance.
Sorry.
But anyway, so I like being next to this thing. And on this particular time, there were 6 of us around the corner, going around the whole left side of the table. The dice are heating up. I wasn't even rolling, but there was this larger, older man who kept trying to get between me and the stick. Now, there's no space there. There's definitely, my chips are there, first of all. And he's trying to get in. Every time the stick kind of turns her shoulder a little bit, remember it was a woman, turned her shoulder a little bit, he comes in and tries to put like a field bet down. And he was told no. He was told no more than once, okay? But still, every now and then, he'd try to go over me. He'd try to go around me. I'm not a small guy, but you're not supposed to try to slide up next to someone and get in their way.
it's
There's
horrible.
no room there, okay? So he was yelled at more than once, and I was getting visibly frustrated with this man. Now, he's an older guy, and he was definitely a little bit intoxicated, right? And he's not being loud yet or anything like that. But he literally, after I kept telling him to get away, kept stop, there's no room. No, there's no room. This guy takes my shoulder, my right shoulder, which is next to the stick. He pulls me, and he takes a swing at me. Now, I haven't been punched since high school. This man missed my face, luckily, but he brushed me. He hit my shoulder. And I just was in shock. Like, I wasn't like fight or flight mode.
what
I was just
happens then?
frozen. I'm like, what did you just do?
Did he get grabbed? Like, the deals freak
so
out?
he did that, and at first I was like, I didn't know if anyone was going to do anything. The pit bosses started yelling. They called security. They came over and took the guy out, as far as I know. I was like in shock for a second. I'm like, did he really just try punching me? He tried punching me, hits the shoulder, and that was it. Like, I didn't retaliate or anything.
He must have been smashed.
I don't think he was even smashed. He was very belligerent, but like, I don't know if he was just very down because he was losing. He was angry. He might have been intoxicated. He was not being. He wasn't practicing good craps etiquette. That's for damn sure. So
And he's dealing with the craps etiquette master.
apparently,
in that moment,
and I was getting upset, and I definitely yelled. Now I don't remember, and Dan might remember what I was yelling. Maybe I was yelling
I
some.
feel like you probably yelled something like,
Yeah.
"Fuck you, jerk off, get out of here."
I might have. I don't think I did. I just remember I was kept yelling, "No, there's no room. No, get away from me."
Right.
And he kept doing it, and the pit bosses weren't doing anything. So anyway, the first time that someone's thrown a swing at me in quite some time. The story doesn't end here, because that would be good. Fine. Almost got punched at the craps table. Didn't happen. Guy gets kicked out. All's fine. 5-10 minutes later. It might have been longer than that, but it was definitely at least 5-10 minutes. Okay. At Borgata, there is a row of craps tables. There's the pit boss, and then there's the middle wall. The dealers are and everything, and then there's another craps table across the way. That craps table is closer to the bar. Suddenly, I literally see or hear a chip fly and land on the table in front of me. Okay, a $5 chip lands on the table, and I didn't even think.
Tell me it's the same guy.
No, so I didn't even think about it at first. Then I got hit in the chest with a $5 chip. The same guy was across the way, and it might have been like 15 feet because it's a table, it's the dealers, it's another table. And he's throwing $5 chips at me, and I'm just sitting there, and I was telling the pit boss, I'm like, what is this? What is this guy still doing here? They called security again. The guy was taken out, I think. I haven't seen him again since. But, I mean, I got $10 out of it.
I was going to say, did you have to keep the money?
No, I didn't keep the money. I would love to tell you I did.
Did you throw him back at him like the piece of trash he was?
No, I was in shock. The whole thing, because it wasn't. I'd imagine
it's crazy.
It's crazy people at the casino. Look, the crazy, and they don't like losing, and they don't like being told they can't bet anymore. And then they probably look a little stupid. They're trying to throw punches, and this is what happens. So
I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever seen anyone actually fight.
Ooh, I've seen
in a
fights.
situation. I mean, I've seen drunk people fight. But
Harris, you want to see fights? Go to Harris, Atlantic City. Okay, like Harris. This is going off topic a bit, but Harris to me was one of my favorite places to go. You go to Harris on a Saturday night when that pool party lets out. Everyone's drunk. They're piling out of that. They're going to the craps tables. There is fights every
Really?
Saturday night there. I do not feel safe playing craps at Harry's on a Friday or Saturday night.
Jeez.
But Borgata, it's a little bit more tame, right? It's a little, people are still drunk, but it's a little more upper class, I'd say. You're not going to get really people fighting there. And again, it's not like this guy was a criminal. You know, he wasn't like he was drunk or upset, and he didn't like that I was yelling at him, which is fine. But anyway, he got kicked out, I'm guessing, because I thought he got kicked out the first time. But yeah, that was definitely... I don't think I was in the wrong there. Okay,
You definitely weren't.
I
can, as you're describing it, I can perfectly picture the scene.
yeah. Moving on to now I'm talking all this craps, right? So I'm getting a little excited. We have a trip coming up. I don't know if we mentioned this on the last episode, but we're going to Parx this weekend. As we record this, it's Wednesday night late. We're going down to Parx Saturday. Besides the fact that we will be playing craps, I'm going down with Danny Osh and our friend Steve. We're playing the Parx Big Stack 300. You probably heard us talk about this a couple times, Joe, but it's probably in my opinion, one of the better tournaments for someone to get into if they're trying to get into tournament poker. First of all, it's only $300, right? It's $300 in first place. I mean, sometimes it's over $100,000.
What kind of field are we talking about here?
Well, they have these once a year. They have the WPT Deep Stacks now, which is nationally known type of tournament, and they go to Parx. Those get over sometimes 2,000 entrants. This will have probably, I'm going to say, 12 to 1,500 people.
Wow.
So anytime you can put $300 down and you get that type of field, it's a 3-day tournament, and really the 3-day tournament goes to like that real late, like talking 5, 6, 7 in the morning on that third day. So you're playing a long time, but in terms of structure, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, $300, this is the best tournament that you could play in the Northeast, I think.
Is this the one that you guys go to every year? Like
yeah, it's usually four times a year or so they have them. The Big Stack series, they call them at Parx. And if you haven't been to Parx, it's in Bensalem, Pennsylvania. It's pretty close to Philly. You actually know it's pretty close to Sesame Place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you have kids out there, and I anticipate when I do have kids, I'll probably be going to Sesame Place during the day and going to Parx at night.
Right.
But the casino itself is nice. There's no hotel attached to it, but there's plenty of like Holiday Inns, Best Westerns around. But it's a great hotel. It's a great casino. I mean, it's got everything you need. It's not talking electronic craps, electronic roulette. They have real craps tables. They just opened up a sports book.
Oh, nice.
I have not been to the sports book yet, so I'm curious to check that out.
And they have horses too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, so the place where the horses are, there's a track there. Yeah, and there's live racing there. And where you play these tournaments was always in the same building as where the horses were. They recently, within the past year, opened up a very nice poker room in the main casino. Now, when they have these huge fields, they don't always do the tournaments in these. They'll have like day 3 there. When there's probably 30, 40, 50 people left. But when day 1, when you're going to have all these people coming in, they tend to still hold the tournaments in the area where they had the horse racing. So it's a little desolate and quiet and dark and dank there. But the dealers are great at Parx. They tend to be, they're seasoned players. They're great. Okay, that's to say. Compared to Borgata, compared to other places up here, Parx, in my opinion, has the best dealers. And the structure is just so great. You're talking 45-minute levels. You're starting with 30,000 in chips. I believe the blinds start at $25.25 or $25.50. 45-minute levels for a $300 tournament. And 45-minute level means it's 45 minutes before the blinds go up. So say we start at $25.50. They're not going to 50 to 100 for 45 minutes. Okay.
Right. So I mean, how does that compare to
a lot of
some of these other structures that you see?
Yeah. Well, a lot of these tournaments that are that cheap are turbos. They're like 1-day tournaments, right?
Okay.
So you're getting 20-minute levels. You might get 30-minute levels, but they're going to skip levels. So they'll go like 50 to 100. Then suddenly it's 200, 400. They don't have as many breaks in the levels. They're not going to have as many levels. So they're going to skip a lot of them, and the tournament goes faster. They want to wrap it up quick.
So you're getting a real chance to sit and play. And
you're playing deep stack poker. That's the whole
awesome
thing. Because even if you come in 4 or 5 hours late, you're going to come in to 50, 60 blinds, which some tournaments start with 50, 60 big blinds.
Right.
So it's a re-entry tournament. So look, you get knocked out, you can buy back in. You can actually buy back in, I believe, through the first level of day 2. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I mean, by that time, you're only going to have like 5, 6 blinds, and it's really like a crapshoot. I've been there before. I've taken that crapshoot many of times. I mean, there's always 1 or 2 guys who buys in day 2 for 5, 6 blinds, and all of a sudden they're the big sack. It happens. And really, how many times can you turn $300 into $80,000, $90,000 in 2 days? It doesn't happen often. So I think it's a great way if you're out there, if you want to get into tournament poker, go down to Parx. Okay, I'm not, again, sponsored by them, but I've been playing there for a while. This is a great way to practice if you plan on going to the World Series, if you just want to learn tournament poker, if you want to get more comfortable with tournament poker. The $300 big stacks is great. And Steve and Dan, who are just kind of dipping their toe in the water, with the tournament scene. They're excited about this, and I'm happy to see them go and learn a little bit.
I like that you're going as like a crew.
Yeah,
this way we're rooting for all of you guys.
It's true, and they're in the group chat, right? So usually I'm always updating what's going on, how we're doing in these tournaments. But they don't play as much as I'm sure they'd like to. We have home games we play in, but they don't get to play these tournaments, and they don't get to play for this much money often.
Right.
Not that $300 is a lot to them necessarily, but for a tournament, it kind of is, and when you can win $80,000, it's great.
Yeah, I mean that's great.
Yeah. So again, I'll be there. We'll be there definitely all day. Whether we make day 2 or not, we're going to be there overnight, right? So worst case scenario, we bust. None of us bag for day 2. We go into the casino. We're going to get to roll some dice. I haven't rolled in about 2 or 3 weeks. I'm kind of excited.
You're due, my man.
I'm due. Yeah. And look, I know there's an outside chance, but maybe you'll end up showing up Saturday night.
There's a chance.
Outside chance.
Listen, for an hour, an hour and 40 from here?
Yeah, no traffic. From Long Island to Parx, you can get there a lot quicker than Atlantic City. That's for sure.
There's a chance. We'll see.
Because you did that once before. You guys showed up late. I was in the tournament. It was a surprise, and my cousin does that a lot. He'll show up late. I
we
love
had an
that.
awesome roll. I mean, that was a lot of fun. I really would like to. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to count on it, but we'll see. And again, the casino is so much better than it was probably last time you were there. They had the poker room. They opened up a couple of new restaurants, which
I was just going to ask, like, how's the food options there?
It was horrible. They had like a noodle bar. They have this kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a steakhouse, but it's an overpriced American food grill. But now they opened an Italian place and like a pub, a gastropub and an Italian place. Both of them, I'm not going to say it's great food, but they needed it. I mean, They definitely needed it there. So now it's more than just a food court. The casino is great for what it is. Okay,
nice.
They have all like the name brand and new slot machines and all the the ones that are based on TV and movies and things like that. It's not just the ones you see at a lot of these smaller Indian casinos that maybe don't have the name brand stuff. It's got good games. It's got good games. Got a good vibe. Drinks obviously free. I know by us here that's not always the case. So it's definitely worth the drive to go down there and play. Kind of talking more about poker. So the next week after the 300, I don't know if Dan and Steve are going to do it. There's the 500. So they have a $500 tournament now the following weekend, which I'm going to go to. The 500, the only difference is you're starting with 40,000 chips instead of 30,000. So it's a little bit more play even,
And you're seeing a similar field at this event? Or?
It's usually, the 500 is usually a lot smaller. And it's weird. 300 to 500 doesn't seem like it's a lot
jump,
to me.
so I feel like
but you got to remember, these are re-entry tournaments, right? So if you're only going to shoot one bullet, if you're only going to buy them once, that means you're kind of behind the 8 ball. It's kind of tough. Because some of these guys, including myself, we're going to take 4, 5, 6 shots at it. Because, again, $300 to win $80,000 in that type of field where it's a little bit, a lot of amateurs, a lot of new guys coming in. It's a positive EV, positive EV play for us to jump in there as much as possible. So I've probably done at least 5, 6 bullets before. After I get over 3 or 4, it's, I'm gambling at that point because usually later in the day, a lot less blinds. But if I don't get anything going, I'll wake up the next day and shoot a $300 bullet. I mean, I'm going to try. I'm there. I might as well.
Right, sure.
But the 500, smaller field, usually only like $70,000, $60,000 for first. Then they have the 1100, which is a little bit tougher of a field. And then they're having a 2500 this series as well.
Do you play in both of those too?
Usually I can't go to all 3 or 4. I'll pick and choose which ones I can go to. It really depends on what I have going on at home with the wife. I don't like to leave 3, 4 weekends in a row.
Right.
So I typically would play the 500 and the 1100 and not play the 300 because it's kind of frustrating when you're playing a $300 tournament and you're playing late into day 2. You get knocked out like 150 left and you made like $400. It's just not exciting for me at this point. So I'll do it because there's such good prize money up front, but it's almost like too long. Like I love that it's long because it's great for people to learn and you're getting a lot of play.
It's a long grind to potentially.
To day 2, the beginning of day 2 is when money should hit in tournaments, in my opinion. Sometimes the Parx one goes a little long. So, but you're getting the best bang for your buck is the point I'm trying to make here. If you're playing a tournament and you really want to have play, you want to play deep stack like you would in a cash game, it's really great to play these $300 tournaments. So the big stacks, again, they'll do it again, I think, in May is the next one after this, and that's when the WPT Deep Stacks comes to town. So there'll be a huge prize pool then. And that's right before the World Series of Poker starts. Starts end of May, beginning of June, which the schedule, Joe, came out, I think, about a week or 2 ago.
Right.
Okay. I know that you haven't been out to Vegas for the World Series, but it's something I try to do every year. Not that I try to do.
How many years have you been doing that now?
This is going to be my 7th year doing it, 6th or 7th year doing it, but I only played the main event twice. So it started off with me really just going out and playing maybe one event, went out for a couple of days. It's kind of evolved into going out now for 15, 16, 17 nights. It's, I save up my days at work, and past couple of years, I've gone down the end of June. That way I can play 5, 6, 7 events and then play the main event, which typically starts, July 2nd, July 3rd, July 4th. There's a couple of different starting flights for that $10,000 main event.
So I know most people know this, but for the people who don't, you're saying main event. I mean, that's one event out of hundreds, right?
Not hundreds. I mean, there is now up to 70 World Series events. Now, the one you see on TV on ESPN, the one where there's, at this point, $8 million typically for first place, is, that's the main event. That's the $10,000 main event. There's no better structure in tournaments. It's usually 2-hour levels. You're starting with more than enough chips. This is the one that you aspire to. This is the most famous tournament is the main event of the World Series. But you can play in any event you want. I mean, there are events up until recently. Usually you can play in a $1,000 event, a $1,500 event, $2,500 event, up to a $50,000 event. And it's not just No Limit Hold'em. That's the most popular game. That's what the main event is, decided. The winner's decided on. But you can play a horse tournament. You can play an Omaha tournament, a stud tournament, a Raz tournament. There's so many different variants of poker that make up the World Series. And you don't have to know how to play every game.
Didn't you jump into something last year, like a game that you've never played before, and for some reason you
decided
to jump
before Hold'em got real popular, there was stud, right? And I did play some stud back in the day, so occasionally I'll play a stud tournament. I'm not a big Omaha player, but I jumped into Omaha tournaments. But yeah, 2 years ago, I jumped into the $3,500, I think big bet mix, which had
that was it.
Had 4 or 5 games I've never played before. It had like deuce to 7 triple draw. It had draw poker, like the draw poker you probably played with your grandparents back in the day. You get 5 cards, you bet, you drew cards, and then you bet again. It was no limit like draw poker, which was absurd. Like playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars in this type of tournament was amazingly exciting. Plus, the field was real small because a lot of people aren't going to go throw money away at these games when they don't know. But I felt comfortable playing any game. I mean, not to say I played it perfectly or even well, but I felt comfortable enough playing them. And you're playing with some of the best in the world at these games. So sitting at a table, even just the entertainment value, sitting there playing with some of the best in the world, these are household names you see on TV. It was great. I mean, I made it deep into day 1, and that didn't make day 2, and that was it. But I don't know my schedule yet. It really does depend. The World Series schedule did come out. There are even events this year, if you're out there and you're thinking about going, you can play a $400 World Series poker event. Like, you can get a bracelet. Like, the bracelets that you win, you can win that for $400, I believe, this year. It's the first time it's getting that low. Up until recently, again, it was $1,000 was the minimum. Then they started doing this 888 tournament, which is $888. Then they did a colossal tournament, which was $500. I mean, I think it got over 20,000 people playing in that damn thing. It was a shit show there. You couldn't even walk in the hallways. And now they're having a $400 event, an $800 event, a $600 event. So no matter what your price point, you can get out there. Now, even if that is too much, maybe you don't want to pay $400 events. There are so many other places around town that have tournaments. It's not just the World Series.
I mean, they're all trying to capitalize on this major event that's going on.
Well, every poker player, anyone who calls himself a poker player, is there at some point from end of May to the main event in July, right? Mm-hmm. So you can go play the Venetian Deep Stacks, which is at the Venetian Hotel. That's actually where I had my biggest score in 2015. It was a $1,500 event. I think 1,400 people, and we chopped, 3 ways at the end of it all. Last year, my biggest score was at the Wynn. The Wynn has a great new poker room. The Wynn's one of the most beautiful hotels in all of Vegas, and they have a very nice poker room, and they had a great tournament. Again, another $1,500 tournament. Did well in. Got 5th, I think it was in that. So there are plenty other places you can go. You don't go to play the World Series, but just make sure if you do go, you stop at the Rio. That's where it's held. That's where it's been held since, past 8-9 years, I believe. Back in the day, it was at Binion's, if you ever heard of that. That's downtown Vegas. That's where it originated. Now it's at the Rio. The Rio's, a shithole. It's a crap hotel as far as I'm concerned. It's off strip. But that's where the World Series is. That's where you're going to find all these players all trying to win a bracelet.
And it's just a massive scene at that hotel.
It's
right?
crazy. It's nuts. I mean, depending on the event, like if you get an event that's like a $10,000 stud tournament, that day may be a little light there. But you get these no limit tournaments, these $1,000 tournaments, these $800 tournaments. Yeah, there's gonna be thousands of people there. And as much mayhem as it is, they do a great job of organizing. You'll see the colored section you're supposed to go to sit in. Like maybe you have an orange ticket, a purple ticket. Maybe you're in the main room. Maybe you're in one of the side rooms. It's just a sea of tables, but it's kind of organized considering.
It's pretty good.
And even if you don't want to play these main events, I mean, they have daily tournaments that go on all day. So say you only have $100 to your name. you can turn that $100 into 20 grand that day. Like you can play a tournament that'll be over that day within 18 hours, say, and you'll play a long time. But you can turn that $100 into tens of thousands of dollars.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So whatever your price point, you can get out there.
And then how about you with the schedule? I mean, I know from the sounds of it, it must be really complicated to try to figure out what you want to play and when, and depending on how deep you go.
And the World Series is great. They put out the schedule now, right, which is months in advance because people have to get their flights and their hotels and all this good stuff. But the other hotels didn't put out their schedules yet, so it's hard for me to schedule it this early. But what I typically do is get like a big Excel sheet, and I'll say, okay, these are the tournaments that are going to be playing at the World Series that I'm interested in. And these are the ones at the Venetian I'm interested in. These are the ones at the Wynn I'm interested in. And I'll have it all kind of laid out. All the way down to the ones that are at the Golden Nugget downtown, the Planet Hollywood. They all have these series, and I'll try to plan out, okay, on day one, I know I'm playing this. When I get there on, say, June 23rd, I'm going to play this tournament. Past couple of years, that tournament that I start my trip off with is either the Monster Stack or the Millionaire Maker at the World Series. It's usually a $1,500 event. It goes up to 5 days long, But I could bust out day one. And what happens if I bust out day one? I want to have a plan B. So I like to know if there's maybe either a night tournament that day, but I want to know what my tournament is the next day. Where is that tournament I can jump in at 10 o'clock in the morning and get going? Because I have to maximize the time I'm there.
Right. And then how about, can you pre-register for these things, or?
Yeah, you can pre-register online. I mean, a lot of them let you pre-register online, which is smart. And it's smart if you're going out there and you say, okay, and you're not like me, and you say, okay, I'm playing 2 tournaments. These are the 2 tournaments I'm playing. Yeah, pre-register for them. It makes things a little bit easier for you that day. You're not stressed. You're not waiting online. But when you don't know what you're playing when, it's hard for me to I'll pre-register for my first event, and I'll pre-register for the main event. Okay. Because I know I'm playing those 2.
Right.
No matter what happens, I'm playing those 2.
Right.
Usually I pick the last day of the main event. No particular reason why, but I usually pick the last day of the main event, which is usually around July 4th. But the tournaments in between, hopefully I only get to play 3 because I make 4 or 5 day 3 day 4s.
Right,
and I have no time to play anything else. But I may play 12 if I get knocked out of tournaments and have to jump into something later that day.
And now, are you planning on staying the entire time? I know years past you come home in between.
It depends on the schedule. I mean, the past 3 or 4 years I've gone out and stayed out. But if the schedule at the World Series has a lot of no limit tournaments at the beginning of the series, I may jump there then and then come back. And this year's like the 50th anniversary of the World Series, so they have this tournament they're doing called the Big 50, which looks like it's going to be a great structured tournament for real cheap. So it's possible I'll go out there early on in June or end of May when it starts and then come back. But it depends. I'm not sure which I prefer. Because when you're out there for 2.5 weeks, it all like feels like one day.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's no break. You don't sleep well ever. You're playing all night. There's a lot of stress, good highs, lows. You want to stay out of the pits. You don't want to gamble every night.
It's got to be tough to be able to make a deep run, wake up, go do it all over again, starting with a day one somewhere.
And that's what's happening. I mean, you're starting over constantly.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's easy when you just bust out of a tournament early, you jump into another one, no big deal. But when you make a deep run, you go, day 3 in something, and now it's like, I got to start over and I got to get through 2,000 people again.
Yeah, it's got to be real tough.
It's a mindfuck. Yeah, poker has, I think, given me such good endurance, I guess the best way to put it, and allowed me to handle beats on and off the felt like really well. And that's why I don't mind going to the casino and dropping money. I don't mind when bad things happen. Yeah, we talked about the Super Bowl and how it sucked to lose 20,000, sucked to win. It's not like I'm mad at these things. I've had situations at the table where I've been bad beat in a situation I'm 80-20 favorite and lost out on 70 grand or 80 grand. That happens. When you get deep in these tournaments, you may get busted out and you have to really get up that next day and play. So if there's one thing I've learned, no matter how much you lose, no matter what the situation was, a good night's sleep, you wake up the next day, you're ready to go. You want to get out there. You want to take another chance at winning the tournament because, again, I'm not out there all summer. I'm not out there a month and a half.
Right, this is your chance. You got to go for it.
Yeah. I have the days off. I have to make the most of it. I'm going to sit there and feel sorry for myself. You got to get out there and do it.
Yeah, that's good.
It's even weirder, too. The one time I really struggled, and, a pity party here for a guy, when I chopped that big tournament, I almost wanted to just go home, though. Like some guy.
I remember you struggled very hard with that.
I remember that night was one of the happiest and saddest for me in a weird way. And again, you're probably sitting on the other side listening to this being like, what a piece of shit.
Yeah, what a fucking jerk off. Look at him all his money.
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of find the people to talk to about this. But it was real late. We played 3 days, 14 hours a day. This last day was more than that. It was like 5, 6 in the morning. I remember we chopped, and I went back to my room. My coach met up with me. We talked a little bit. She was there to kind of watch me, chop the tournament, which was great. We talked a little bit about it, and then I went back to my hotel room, and I remember sitting in the bathroom at Bellagio. Okay, I was at Bellagio at the time, and I loved this suite that they gave me with a nice bathroom that overlooked the whole strip. And I got in the tub and I sat there, and the sun was coming up, and I called my friend Brian. My friend Brian is probably the smartest guy I know. He was, in my opinion, a great poker player, but decided to go the Magic route. He's a huge Magic the Gathering fan. From my knowledge, he's one of the best in the world. He now does a lot of commentating for them. And I remember calling him, and he was the only guy I felt like I could talk to at the time that would understand how I felt. And I called him. I said, "This is a horrible feeling." I'm like, this is as good as I could feel right now, and I don't feel good. And it was really kind of tough then to wake up even the next day or the day after and want to get back at it, because I knew that I wasn't going to enjoy it even if I won. It's a very weird situation, but I did the smart thing after I win. I literally went home the day after, because I woke up the next day. My mom actually was in town at the time, and I remember sitting there, and I gave her a bunch of money, to take with her, just gamble, have fun, all that stuff. And I said, if I stay here, like, nothing's going to be exciting. What do I gamble on now? When I win this, what do I bet next to make me feel like I'm betting something?
Yeah.
It's
dangerous.
It is.
a dangerous spot
right?
to be in.
And a lot of guys, look, they'll open up the craps table for $100,000. Like, oh, look at me, and they'll go crazy and they'll lose it all. I luckily didn't have that urge at all, but I needed to bet a lot to make myself feel anything at that point, right? So I luckily did the smart thing and went home. I didn't even play the main event that year.
Right.
It just wasn't. It was a really weird mind space for me at the time, and I've done better, I think, handling these types of situations. But and I've enjoyed now going deep. But it's not even so much the money as I like.
I mean, that was a real grind too. I mean, the amount of time you put into that was
tough,
significant, right?
But I mean, think about it. If you're there 14 days, you're playing nonstop for 14 days.
Yeah.
These are long days. Now sometimes you get knocked out of a tournament 6, 7 o'clock, and you're like, all right, I have till tomorrow now. Go mess around at the craps table, go rest around the pie gout table. Maybe I'll go to a show. Maybe I'll get some dinner. But to restart after a long run,
I can't imagine.
It's tough. It's tough, man. But again, for all those out there that are interested in playing, please go out there, check it out. Even if you don't plan on playing any of the bracelet events, play those daily events we talked about. You, again, turn $100 into $20,000.
How about, is there opportunities to play sit and goes?
Yeah, of course. The sit and goes is, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the World Series. A lot of the other hotels don't do this. But there's a huge section of the World Series, like in the main room, okay, that you can go and play sit and goes. Maybe you used to play these online, depending on how old you are out there. Maybe you played on Full Tilt. Maybe you played on PokerStars. Maybe you're playing or listening. You're listening somewhere that's legal to still play online poker. But you have the ability to go there and play anywhere from, I think it's $120 to a $1,080 sit and go. And these sit and goes are firing off all day, every day. There's like 40, 50 tables that are waiting for people to literally sit down and fire away that tournament. 10 people, sit and go tournament, very similar to something you probably played before. They're winner take all. Now, typically, when you get down to 2-3 people, a lot of these things, they end up chopping it. But it's a great way to go ahead and kind of grind up a bankroll. It's a great way to make money if you've played these sit and goes before. And then there's kind of like a solve strategy to these things.
There's probably guys who go and just sit there and do that all day.
You see the same guys doing it. I mean, I would recommend if you're new, stick to the $120 ones. Once you start getting to that, I think it's 280 or 500 range, that's where a lot of the pros are going to be sitting, the guys who literally go out there and play them for 6 weeks straight. A lot of them know each other. Not to say there's collusion or anything like going on, but, there's honor amongst thieves at these types of things. So I'd recommend highly to, play the 120s, play the 180s, maybe build up a bankroll if you win them, maybe take a shot at a big tournament.
Well, I like the idea of trying to get some money out of a few of those and then turning that into something
Yeah,
bigger.
because they're technically one-table satellites. Like a sit and go online used to be, you put some money in, they pay the top 3. The way to get around it is, and there's probably some legality issues to this, right? But it's a satellite to a bigger tournament. So it's all winner take all, and then they give you something called lammers. Okay, and lammers are like $500 tokens that you can now use to buy into other tournaments. Now you can sell these things for cash. There's people going to buy them from you all day, every day. Don't just so we know too. I should touch upon, if you have these lammers, some guys out there may try to give you $450 for your $500 lammer because they know that you don't know what to do with it. Don't accept anything less than the value. You'll find some guy that'll pay you the right amount of money, or you can use it to buy into a tournament.
Do you have to? Like, you can't cash it in?
No, you cannot cash it in. It has to be, you have to be buying into a tournament. But again, remember, there's thousands of players out there. As long as you feel all comfortable saying, hey, does anyone want this $500 lammer? Or usually, two at the end, if it ends up being a chop between one or two guys, you can say, yeah, I'll give you the lammers, give me cash, or something like that.
I got you.
Plus, my favorite thing, and they don't like to admit this, but there's so many side bets at these sit and goes. It's my favorite thing. There'll be last longer bets. So, say you and I sit down, okay, and I don't know you, I sit down, I'll be like, oh, you want to do a heads up, last longer. So, we'll say, let's put $100 on the side here, and whoever lasts longer between you and me, give $100 cash to the other guy.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes the whole table will do it, or 5, 6, 7 guys will do it. So you'll sit down at a $120 tournament, sit and go, but there'll be everyone else put an extra $50 in to whoever lasts longer. So this is a way of getting like rake-free money. Now, they're a little bit been sticklers about putting money on the table, so usually one guy holds it for everyone now. But there's so many of these types of bets going on, and literally you can go there, bring a nice $500, $1,000 bankroll for the day, and you can have a day full of fun, win or lose.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a great way to kind of grind and eventually take a shot. If you have a good day, go take a shot at the next $1,000 tournament the next day, or even these $400 or $500 tournaments they have now at the World Series.
I just like the idea you have a lower entry point to try to get into a bigger tournament. I think that's great.
It's the land of taking shots. You there's nothing but degenerate gamblers out there going there with their last dollar, trying to turn it into their 100 into 1,000, their 1,000 to 20,000. Suddenly they're playing the main event, and now they're the next Chris Moneymaker. They're winning $1 million. So
right.
This happens. We've seen it happen. There's a lot more losers than winners, but do not be intimidated. If you have any questions, you can reach us at 7outpod@gmail.com. Go to our Twitter, 7outpod at 7outpod. Ask. I'm here to answer any questions you have for like the mid-stake player. And again, if you're in the Northeast, I can definitely send you the right way to some tournaments that are good practice. So before we wrap up, we make a big point on us trying to find ways to gamble beyond the casino. Like we talked a lot about the casino and craps, and we just got a long-winded tale about the World Series and poker. But we gamble on everything and anything, and most recently we found a way, the past couple of years, we found a way to gamble on the Royal Rumble. 36-year-old men watching the Rumble. If you don't know what the Royal Rumble is, it's wrestling. It's WWE, baby.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Now, I don't know about you, Joe. This is probably the only wrestling event I watch every year.
Yeah, it's the only thing. And we only watch it because we do this.
Yeah, exactly. We found a way to gamble on it. Yeah. I think it's a great way to gamble on it. I think you should all gamble on it. It's worth buying the pay-per-view, I don't know, $50, $60 or something like that. But get a couple of your friends together, gamble on the Rumble. Now, what we do is, let me start with this. If you don't know what the Royal Rumble is, every year around this time, the WWE has a bunch of matches that we don't know who's fighting.
Yeah.
But they have a 30-man Royal Rumble, and then they have a 30-woman Royal Rumble. And the match starts off with 2 people in the ring who are picked 1 and 2 for this Rumble out of the 30 participants. And every 2 minutes now, some new character, some new wrestler comes down into the ring, and the whole goal is to throw the wrestler over the top of the ropes. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before, but if you haven't, usually it ends up being 10, 15 people in the ring at a time. It's mayhem. They're all punching each other, throwing each other in the ropes, and it always ends with one person standing in the ring at the end. So because we don't know any of these wrestlers, and again, occasionally we'll see some guys that we know from our childhood in the ring, but because we don't know any of these wrestlers, we can't really say, okay, I think Hulk Hogan's going to win this match, Joe. We can't just pick players, right? We can't pick wrestlers.
Not at all.
So because there's 30 participants, we each take a certain amount of numbers. If there's, let's say, 5 of us, okay, we each throw in X amount of dollars. In this case, it was, $20, $30. We each pull 6 numbers out of a hat, right? So, maybe you pull number 1, number 5, number 12, number 28, 29. Those are your wrestlers. Now, you don't know who they are. No one knows who they are because we don't know who's coming out.
You're not finding out until they're walking down to
exactly. Which is fun because we don't know who the hell these people are. You're waiting like, oh, I'm number 5. Let's see who's coming down. All of a sudden, you see some clown music and some dude who obviously is not going to win starts walking down down the ramp. Right. You're like, crap. I 7'd out on this one. But maybe like, oh wow, I recognize that guy. He's maybe John Cena or Randy Orton, some guy maybe we see on commercials. Some big wrestlers. So then you think you have a shot. It almost makes it more fun that we don't know the wrestlers because if you knew the wrestlers, you probably knew which guys had a shot and which didn't.
Well, our buddy Dan, he
he knows.
Kind of is familiar with him, right? So guys would come out and he'd say, "Oh, he's a favorite."
He's a favorite. He said that about like 7, 8 people.
Yeah, that's true.
But one of them eventually ended up winning. But you did pretty well on this, Joe.
It came down to you and I had the last 2 wrestlers in the ring
in the women's match.
Yeah,
I had I had the winner eventually called Becky Lynch, who, again, I don't know who the hell that is.
Yeah, me neither. But once it got down to 2, Vin looked over at me and said, "You want to split?"
It was my wrestler. I don't remember who your wrestler was. But
I don't remember either. Yeah,
I remember Becky Lynch came down like 28th, and I was like, "Ooh, 28's a good number." And then I remember some jamoke started walking down the ring. Oh, that's right. Some wrestler started walking down the ring. She couldn't walk.
Someone else.
She couldn't walk.
That's what it was.
She had like a gimp, a limp going on. She was she had like a broken leg, and then all of a sudden this Becky Lynch character comes out, and apparently she's popular.
Yeah.
And she came down. She ended up winning. So yeah, we chopped the women's event,
I was
which was
very
nice.
excited about that. Yeah.
And then in the last one, you had Seth Rollins, who I didn't know who Seth Rollins was going into this.
I heard his name. I know he's popular, and he's
Henry Rollins. I know. I don't know Seth Rollins, but he came out 10th, and apparently he lasted the whole time.
Yeah, he lasted the whole time, and that was the same situation where one of our other buddies had the last guy left along with me, and I said, "Hey, you want to split?" And what do you think he said? No.
He said no. He
Fine,
said no.
Don't split. I'll
he
take
lost.
it.
You win both the
that was
women's
a very profitable
and the
night for me.
men's Royal Rumble. Yeah,
that's it.
So maybe this is your calling. Maybe this is your thing, man.
I'm only gonna bet on Royal Rumbles,
Monkey Knife Fight, and Royal Rumbles,
and that's it.
Sadly, we have to wait till next year. I don't think there's any way we can really bet on the matches per se. So anyway, next time you have the Royal Rumble comes up every January, have your friends over, buy pay-per-view, and just pick numbers out of a hat. It doesn't matter if there's 2 of you, each pick 15 numbers, or 10 of you, each picking 3 numbers. It's fair. There's no edge to anything here. You don't know what wrestlers you're getting. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was fun.
And
I mean, look, any possible situation, you can figure out some sort of way
to gamble
bet on it and make it more fun.
Yeah. I think we pride ourselves on that. So,
absolutely.
Hopefully, you guys take that little nugget there and run with it and have fun next Rumble. Again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. I think we're running in over about an hour here, which a little bit longer than our last episode.
Shockingly.
Probably going to do these every 2 weeks, we said, right? So this is probably going to air on Friday. I think Friday is going to be our day, right? We're going to try to do every 2 weeks on a Friday. Probably next episode we'll have some feedback or updates from the Parx tournament, right?
Have the Parx, right?
So we'll talk a little bit more Parx. We'll get a little bit more into the World Series of Poker schedule as I get a little bit more knowledge about what events I might be playing. And again, I'm sure we're going to be gambling on something between now and then. So again, check us out. We're now on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, guys. Check us out on Twitter again, 7outpod at 7outpod, or email us with any questions at 7outpod@gmail.com. Thanks again, everyone. Good luck at the tables. And remember, take what you can and give nothing back.
Whatever you do, don't roll a 7!